If this message found you, it is because there is something here for you from Spirit. We are working with Jeshua and the Ascended Masters, and that is to bring through truth about this human experience. And today we want to share more of a personal note, a personal story that happened to us today. So, just to give you a little backstory, first of all, hi, my name is Kenneth Berenson. I've been through quite some challenging situations in order to face reality. And that face reality has been that I've been very naive, very seeing only basically the best in people is what they say. What we have understood lately is that it's because we're seeing people's soul and the best possible outcome for what they're here to do. We didn't know that that was on second nature for us. We didn't know that we had that as a gift. But in the honing of that gift, we have given away our power. Meaning, we have just given and given and given and given and given and not really, and just had that because that was our training to give, to be kind. And so we just gave, sacrificial. That's been the training of the church and a lot of the training in the society that we have grown up in. So this body is Norwegian, and so it's been a lot of duality that we have gone through, and so we had to experience a really different experience for us to snap out of it. And so we experienced both a wonderful experience and the worst experience we could possibly experience as well. And it was all our own creation of what we thought that this was, this game. But just because it's a game for the knower and the soul part doesn't mean that it's not real for the body and for the experience and what's actually happening, knowing exactly where you are in frequency. Frequency is something that, it's an interesting thing because it accumulates and it depends. It's like taking a train. You are going somewhere when you go up in frequency. It's not just receiving the upgrade. It's experiencing life, and we had to face that we didn't really know when to stop giving. But eventually we had to do that. We had to practice that muscle. And in that we discovered ourself and how important it is to look after the self, look after the body. And that's something that when we started these 28-day consciousness shifts, we were quite in the middle of the discovery of all of the channeling with Jesus and the Ascended Masters, and it was a whole thing. And as these 28 days have gone on, it's sort of morphed a little bit. And it was because we needed more training in order to continue our body's learning. Because our body's learning is what our ascension is. If we continue to give, that's not us learning anything. And so that's why this experience was such a gift for us. I mean, we called it a karmic twin situation only because that was what was being presented And it was a very special meeting, and it is the same lesson that each human being goes through, but it depends on how you look at that situation. How did you deal with that? And we went a little bit too far because we were simply believing the best, that they would get it at some point, just by, come on, because Gaia is inspiring all the beings and cooperative components to fix things. But if you have twisted perception, you have twisted perception. That's what we realized, is that, wow, we have to really look at reality here. And the reality was that we were in shit. And once we realized that, and that was when the channeling opened up. And it was a lot of moments like that in that period that opened us up. And one of the things was someone crashed into the building. And that we could feel shook something in alignment for us. And so, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Like, it's both. The energy and the event, they are both simultaneously happening. The upgrade is such that it produced that. Once you realize these shifts can be quite dramatic in what it does in the physical, how it shakes the body to shake it into more harmony. And sometimes you have to go through some challenging situations. And I'm sure you have had some challenging situations yourself. So we had to dive deep in frequency again. Not so deep, but we needed to go down to fetch our body and where our body was at when it came to people. Because we had been alone, but then we had to reestablish, okay, who actually has our best interests here? Because there was a lot of people that we allowed in our space that was just taking what we were giving. And so that is a continuous muscle that is good to keep making sure that it can flex. The same as you can do your 10 push-ups or 50 or 100, whatever your baseline is. But so that you feel that you're fit. Can you do those 10 push-ups? Okay, you still got it. You know, like sometimes you gotta have those checks with yourself. And this is one of those. And we discovered the importance of looking after the space. And we were so in that when we were in our own space. And then we had such a pressure with this environment, this camper, and going down in frequency, we couldn't be bothered to do any renovation. And so we had a complete, after pushing ourselves so much to get this camper ready to get out to the date that we had to get out, it was quite a thing. And if you haven't seen that, that is why we created Diary of an Alchemist. That is basically our story, and we have documented a few key moments that has happened during our multiple awakening and upgrades that we continuously have now because of this experience. We see what is the truth, and we are we are operating the body in such a different way. It's a very different way that we have learned to operate the body through this whole experience. It's very interesting. And so we have now finally gotten to a place where we have a lot of nature around. It's just what we envisioned. Just like we envisioned this camper, we also envisioned having a place that we can sort of finish it to the best that we have so far, at the very least, because we have like a floor that's like waiting for us to, and we haven't had any desire to just like experience so much emotional work. We have gone so deep and unraveled all of these things with Gaia, Jeshua, Jason and Masters and the entire team. And this is what we're doing in these 28-day consciousness shift. And sometimes they seem more turbulent than other times because we're in it with the body and it's processing. And sometimes you don't see the whole thing because you're in there processing, but you still, when you are awake, you are awake. It's just that you gotta interpret correctly. And when you're in those frequencies, there's a lot of sneaky energies. And so what we experienced today, though, was that we have had that goal for quite a number of 28 days, but we haven't had any desire, we haven't been in the right situation, but now we are, and our body has purged a whole bunch of stuff, the last eclipse, and now we're coming up to another one, so we'll see what happens. But because now we are so connected to Gaia again, because we're in her turf, which is nature, dominant environment. And so the last Heya, Gaia was here, giving us a really good cleanse energetically for the entire session. And after the session, we just sat there. We could feel all this opening inside, just so present. Didn't want to do anything, just like let everything be. No need to do anything. And we were just there, feeling just the energy flow, unhindered through the entire body. And it's like, whoa, this is some energy to get used to. This is what we're being asked to stabilize. But it also has to do with the very practical things of looking after the space, which we haven't done a really good job at, to be honest. We haven't had the extra capacity because we've been working the most that we can, and then when we haven't been working, we have been doing Heya sessions every single day, multiple times a day. Because there has to be this combination, otherwise you're not moving forward. And that is simply the nature. There is this two sides that you have to fulfill, and that is your soul mission and your body. And today, we've postponed this so much, and we saw a freaking snake. We saw a snake. We tried to film it. We were so preoccupied getting a snake out of there, and it went under. And it went under. So we were like, what are we doing? So we tried to scream, but we didn't see where it went. And so we feared a little bit that it went into the camper, and we were like, okay, start the engine and start to drive. And we didn't think nothing. We hadn't strapped anything. So we just shook it so that we would shake the snake to go and go somewhere else, right? But in that process, the whole water container flipped upside down. Suddenly there was water everywhere. So we didn't think, we were just like a little bit in the survival, like fuck a snake. But in hindsight, this is Gaia. This is Gaia nudging us to clean the floor, to start, and we're just like, okay, everything was everywhere on the floor. And so we're like, okay, thank you, Gaia, okay. So it's just, today we've just been using that to clean and get ready for gluing, which is what we're going to do now. And so sometimes it's this, that is the spiritual practice. Moving forward towards that thing that you know will satisfy your body and its environment, because that will lead to more. Trust in that. So that's where we are at right now. We are moving ahead towards looking more after our own body by getting organized in here. And first of all, being in a place that we can. The battery went. Okay, so we didn't feel like it was completely over, so we just started again. The neighbor's dog. So, where are we? Yes, so that's what we're working on. That is the reversal that we are undergoing. And that is us looking after us. It's really, really simple in many ways. It is us looking after us. Mainly. Of course, you look after people too, but we know better now, right? And so we are very aware of what people are doing right now. And we are making note who is just talking the talk and who is walking the walk. Because there is a difference between what people are saying and the allure that they're trying to create in frequency with their words, and then there's the actual truth of what they're actually doing. And that is the either disconnect between their knower and the feeler, or their harmony, or what they are doing that is good versus what not is, what is not so good. And that's the whole game. This is the reversal that we're all undergoing. The reversal to don't, focus on you and your own development with those two. And then from there, meet people. It's a whole nother ballgame. And so we rather have that, because that's when we feel like we can be ourselves and have that be respected, And that has been, we haven't fully been ourselves in our entire life. We haven't fully dived in to share all of what we're seeing and feeling simply out of some kind of what we categorize as respect for other people. But it's like, oh, what? That's a bit weird. Shutting down your own thing to respect other people. Like what? Like people, we had these kind of things. Like it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you disrespect yourself to what? Prioritize some other thing out there? Like it doesn't make any sense. But we're all on this journey, this reversal journey, to focus more on yourself and be very selfish. It doesn't mean that you're egocentric. That doesn't mean that you don't care about other beings. It's just that you care about yourself so much that you want other beings to have the same care for themselves, because that's the only thing that works. And that's a journey. And sometimes it's hard to look after yourself. We find it a little bit challenging, having been so much in change. We've never lived in a camper like this. This is a completely different, I mean, one thing is to have one and just go on trips like that. This is a whole different ballgame. And so this is our home. You know, like it's pretty cool. We've always sort of wanted to have a home that we could move around in, because that to us is freedom. It feels liberating to be able to be here in nature, have our stuff, have our nice mattress, like a good foam, you know, like have the things that's needed for a good life, and then have nature all around. That has been something that we have wanted for a long, long time. But we haven't prioritized ourselves because of our twisted perception when it came to relationships. You know? And that's what we came through a really big shift with that particular, because we focused on us. We chose us type of thing in all of these tests that Gaia puts us through. Eventually, we got here. So we got through the tests, so to speak, meaning that our body is ascending in frequency until we are ready for this. This is what happens. This is how we ascend in frequency. And it's very fun, but it's a totally different way of thinking. That's why we're channeling every single day, to remind us to update our consciousness to this system, to see it this way, because the old way, we know that doesn't work. And this is the only way that we have seen that actually reverses this creation, so that you're not just fueling everything out there, you're fueling yourself, and then it overflows. It's a process. So this is where we're at. This is our journey with our body. And we are still working on our balance, you know, but we have higher intelligence guiding us every single day. That's what we're so grateful for. Jesus, Archangel Michael, Archangel Metatron, Gaia, the Galactic Family of Light. Thank you so much. You know, they are looking after me so much in this project. It's really fun. But it's not without challenges. And so this floor has been one of those things, and today we had this tremendous help from Gaia. Yeah, thanks Gaia. Sending a snake to scare us into action. Very effective. Very effective. But she knows that we know her now. So she knows that we're not afraid. She knows that we know that there is a deeper meaning and love behind it. And she also feels that we are ready for it. Right? Even though we have a little bit trouble sort of getting in gear up until today. So I hope this story helped you. I hope that it inspired some inspiration in you to follow your light, follow what you're here to do. We'll send you so much blessings, and we'll talk to you again in the next one.